Today, French lawmakers voted in an attempt to make France the latest country to recognize Palestine as a state. The motion of the French lawmakers was 339 for, 151 against, which might lead you to believe that France has now recognized Palestine as a state, but that's actually not the way it works. It's mostly a symbolic gesture at this point. But they have voted in favor of it. They join, I believe, Sweden. Sweden just last week became the 135th member of the UN to recognize Palestine as an independent state. And you'll notice a striking disparity between the sorts of countries that have recognized it. You see just a couple of Western nations. You see Sweden there, and some countries in South and Latin America, but the United States, no. Canada, no. Greenland, no. And little else in Europe.
The ones that have not recognized Palestine, an overwhelming number of them have American military bases. But I'm sure that's a wild coincidence. Okay, so now, so just a little bit of clarity here. Sweden has already officially recognized them. As John pointed out, France has not done that. They voted that way. But
for pressure.
Right, but so now, to be fair, it is a non-binding vote. So when the French leaders dismiss the vote, they're allowed to, right? Now, but also, to be fair to the other side, isn't it funny that when democracy, the representatives of the people express their view, and overwhelmingly so, and by the way, the French people agree, 60% in polls solidly say that Palestine should be recognized, right? Now, they believe in a two-state solution, of course, right? But they're saying now, recognize it now, right? And so, but the powerful decide, not so much, right? So you could have your fun little democracy, and you could have, oh, look at that cute little vote you guys just had, but we say no.
Yeah, you care about the rights of others. That's adorable. You weren't even born in America. So that's them saying that.
Right, and so now we have a different category of countries that John was alluding to, where France, Spain, Britain, and Ireland have had non-binding resolutions saying, hey, maybe we should head in that direction, right? So Sweden is the first major Western country to actually go all the way and say they should be recognized.
Yeah, and you're seeing sort of an acceleration of this process of these non-binding votes in light of the fact that the U.S.-led talks with Israel have effectively fallen apart. You see Israel building more and more settlements, and that's putting pressure on, I would say, Western countries that generally would be more than willing to follow in America's wake, but now saying nothing is happening here. We've seen this going on for decades and decades. Something needs to be done. Now, I do want to read you two quotes, one from one of the ministers of Europe saying why they're not currently in favor of this, said, we don't want a symbolic recognition that will only lead to a virtual state. We want a Palestinian state that is real, so we want to give a chance to negotiations, which sounds good, but also sounds like that's an argument that you could make for the next 75 years. You also have, this is from the Israeli Foreign Ministry spokesman Emmanuel Nashan, who said, Israel believes that the vote will only jeopardize the possibility of reaching an agreement between Israel and the Palestinians. Such decisions only toughen the Palestinian positions and send a wrong message to the leaders and peoples of the region.
So the wrong message they send is, don't try diplomacy. You might want to choose a violent path instead. Because, look, if you say to the Palestinians, you can't raise your hand in any way, shape, or form, which we agree with, right? Although I don't agree with the way that they apply the law. For example, they just increased the penalties for throwing a stone. Now, you can throw all the missiles you want into Gaza and kill 2,000 people. That's fine. But if you dare to pick up throw of a stone, it used to be a 2-year sentence, which is pretty draconian, right? You don't have to hurt anybody. It's like just throwing a stone in a protest, in a political protest. But yes, it's a violent act, right? 2 years, 2 years. That's pretty draconian. They just increased it to 20 years in prison, right? So don't you ever dare raise your hand. Now, we as a state can occupy you for decades and decades, make you go to checkpoints. If you don't, we arrest you, we beat you, we imprison you, sometimes we kill you. We
choke off your economy to nothing.
Right, but state violence never ever counts. Okay, you cannot raise your hand. Fine, I agree, I hate violence, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so now, all right, great, so let's try diplomacy. How dare you? How dare you? That will only jeopardize the peace negotiations. No, it won't. It's diplomacy. In fact, it's the exact same thing that Israel did to become Israel. And that's why the Israeli government...
That's how devious the Palestinians are.
Yeah. They're like, okay, we will do exactly what you did. You have to agree with that, right? How dare you? No. Understand this. The Israeli government does not want the Palestinians to follow diplomacy in any way, shape, or form because they are afraid it will work and it will lead to an independent Palestine. In fact, they get more upset and are more full of rage and do more behind-the-scenes pressure, which you see in every article of every insider that they talk to, right, including pressure from the United States. They get more upset when they do diplomacy than when they do violence, because Israel thinks, the right-wing government of Israel thinks, well, if you do violence, that's great, because I have more weapons than you. I'm going to crush you. I'm going to kill you 100 to 1, sometimes 1,000 to 1 ratio, right? And I'm going to be more popular as the leader in the middle of a war because I'm a right-winger, right? So that serves my purposes perfectly. Some Israelis die, who cares? Thousands of Palestinians die, who cares? Netanyahu got a couple percentage points more popular, right? But if you do diplomacy, oh no, we can't have that, because that can work. So God bless the French Parliament for doing the right thing, not the French leadership yet. So the foreign minister is saying, well, let's wait another 2 years, and if we don't have any progress in negotiations, then maybe we could recognize Palestine. Just recognize it. Isn't this hilarious? Because the number one complaint of the Israeli government is the Palestinians refuse to recognize us. But wait a minute. First of all, you already exist. Okay, they can recognize whatever they like, but you exist, right? You literally won't let them become a state. It's not a theoretical we won't recognize them. It's a reality of you won't recognize them. And so the absurdity of the position is that, no, if you recognize Palestine as a state, well then the Palestinians will not come to the negotiation table. Why? Because they'll be happy with their theoretical state? Okay, at that point, it's not really a state until Israel moves the army out, okay? They still occupy it. Of course, they'll still go to the negotiating table. All that'll happen is their hand will be a little stronger at the negotiation table, and that's exactly what the right-wing government of Israel wants least of all. They don't want the Palestinians to have any degree of power. If they have even 1% power, it must be crushed out.